We'll get that thing underway. Hopefully most people have joined by now. So today we're looking at the Task Manager, predominantly Task Manager 2, which has introduced a newer way of viewing tasks and workflows, etc., and to improve the streamlining in available functionality and appearance between FinPower Connect and FinPower Connect Cloud. Task Manager 2 also benefits from some performance-based optimizations, I believe, to improve load times, etc. First, we'll cover off an overview of what the Task Manager is designed to do. Keep in mind as we go through today's session that some of the functionality described requires additional licensing. So if you don't already have some of the functionality you see today, feel free to contact your Intersoft dealer or application support for more information. The Task Manager acts as a central point for each user to perform their daily functions, whether they're sourced from workflows or tasks which present in the form of an unactioned account, client or application logs, review dates or user logs. The Task Manager has some easy access buttons to cater for regular functions such as recording notes, making payment arrangements, printing documents and sending emails or SMS messages, making the user experience easy. Excuse me. Tasks are made up of some of the following items, things like account logs with specific follow-up requirements like outstanding quotes the user has, broken promises, which are account logs with action dates, which appear if configured to in the ap.paprom script constants, where a borrower has broken their promise to pay arrangement. Overdue monitoring logs, security and account reviews, closed pending reviews, returned electronically signed documents, suspension reviews, and more. Client logs with action dates or review dates, which could include things like returned ID check inquiries, like Centrix Biometric or Apply ID, or client logs added manually but with a review date set, or perhaps by script. SMS replies and webmail replies, which are client logs created by sending messages using the Client Connect portal and things. Tasks can be set by various processes throughout FinPower Connect, like account rules and workflows where logs are added, for example. Essentially, any log with an action date set will become a task to be followed up in Task Manager on that set action date with anything with a review date. Monitored accounts also appear in Task Manager under their own section, which we'll look at shortly. Monitored accounts show anything with a monitor category set. And additionally, workflows, of course, can be actioned from the Task Manager with each step being processed and outcomes recorded. So let's open Task Manager and have a look. So the Task Manager comes with some system folders out of the box that are already available for users to use, as we can see down the left-hand side. So these are the ones in this blue colour. The groups of system folders are tasks, workflows, account applications, and monitored accounts. These can be turned on or off for display under user preferences, depending on the needs of the business and how they choose to use Task Manager. The Task Manager loads for the logged in user, so what we're looking at now is the administrators folders containing specifically their tasks, workflows, and applications, etc. So tasks obviously appear here under the tasks header with numerous subfolders to break these tasks down further. We have a folder for logs, which contain all the log tasks grouped together, so client and account. Each folder has a different button strip along the bottom, which include actions related that can be taken. For example, in this particular folder, we have buttons to refresh the list, add a log, add a workflow, reply to webmail, which is a specific type of client log, as mentioned earlier, complete the task, which sets a completed date on the log and removes it from the list, options to push action dates out, delegate to a different user or role, and so on. So if I clicked this button here, I could pick Jenny per se, and it'll delegate it to that user. Clicking the role button will delegate it to a role, and so on. The review date folder shows filtered results based on tasks related to review dates only. So account reviews, security statement reviews, closed pending reviews, for example. An important thing to note here is the difference between a review date and an action date. For example, you can complete a log task using the complete function, and some of the button strip options can redate action dates, meaning pushing them out per day, week, fortnight, month, or year, as we see here. This is not necessarily the case for review dates. This is because of the underlying functionality and the purpose difference between an action date and a review date. For example, an action date appears on a log, and that's what's predominantly used for tasks. However, review dates can be set in a few places, one being the account review date, which is set on the account itself on the general page here. And the security statement review date, which is also found on the general page, but on the security statement form itself. The task complete function, which is represented by the green tick, which is grayed out here because it's not relevant to this type of task, sets the completed date. For example, the security statement reviews also do not support postponing or completing. This is because the account review date field is the date field on its own, and there isn't a secondary date field to record a completion date like there is on logs. So if we have a quick look at an account log itself, you can see here there's a completely separate date field here. So in order to review these, you need to actually go to the record and change that review date, presumably once the actual review has been undertaken, and then either clearing that date out or setting it to the date you need it to reappear in this list. The remaining folders all filter again based on various components. Account will show you only account-related tasks, for example. Application, again the same. Any account application-related tasks that may be available. Client will show you any client logs, and the client webmail folder is more specific. Again, this folder will show client logs of a webmail type, allowing the separation of client replies via the Client Connect portal, for example, so a user can see separated out any replies from clients so that they can watch that folder a bit closer, perhaps, which is a good way to monitor time-sensitive tasks. Security obviously will filter by only the security statement reviews, and the user folder will identify any user logs. Under the workflows group, again, the folder comes with preset subfolders, allowing the ability to target workflows by many different filtering abilities. There's obviously the all folder, which will show you any outstanding workflows for this currently loaded user. And expanding that out again, you can then filter by account application, or client type workflows. You'll notice that the button strap along the bottom here has changed, and that we've got different actions available that match the functionality for workflows on their forms themselves. For example, from here we can set flags, set recall dates, clear recall dates, add logs, record incoming or outgoing communications, send documents, emails, and SMS messages right from Task Manager, delegate users, clear allocated users, place workflows on hold, close workflows, add new workflows, and where relevant, make payment arrangements and change monitor categories. What is available here button-wise is, of course, dependent on permissions. As we're logged in as the administrator, we can see all of these, but you can control what the users have access to here. The workflow items themselves can obviously also be actioned from here in the summary, depending on what is required. or they can choose to click the hyperlink to open that record itself. This is what makes Task Manager a really great one-stop shop in terms of work task lists, as depending on the user's role, the list they see here of workflows assigned to them is obviously going to be tailored to their job role. For example, a collections officer would see workflows assigned to them of a collections nature, and being able to see their work list in the one place, actioning what they need to, and moving on to the next one in the list, and so on. The further subfolders include things like recalled workflows, which of course tell you in the summary why they've been recalled. This one here, for example, was recalled due to a payment arrangement being created, which of course we covered in the workflow type session on how to choose your recall events. The on hold folder will show you any workflows that have been placed on hold. Any unallocated, obviously the same. This is really useful if you don't automatically allocate your workflows. You'll see a giant list of unallocated workflows where a user can go to, assign it to themselves and pick it up and carry on, for example. And any pending workflows and a review folder to show any relevant workflow review tasks. Account applications, again, same sort of thing. There are preset folders, which if we expand the list, we can see breaks it down for us by, again, unallocated, any applications in the reviewing status, any current complete applications would appear here, and also its own monitored folder. So this covers the application-related monitored categories, any applications in a monitor category will appear here. It's got a subfolder for its own monitor category type. So in this case, this is monitor category B, and each of the individual monitors appear as their own little subfolder, which is really handy. On that note, obviously, we also have the monitored accounts group, and this will show you all of your monitor categories. So if we have a look at the monitor category A folder, or overdue, we can again see all of the individual monitor category folders here. So for example, you could head straight to your HShip monitor category and see a list of accounts that you've got monitored for hardship reasons. This makes it really easy to find exactly what you're looking for. Again, we've got the monitor category B with all of the available individual monitor categories there too. Below the account list, we've also got some buttons here. So this button here will refresh the folders. This button here will refresh folder counts. The folder counts can cause a little bit of a performance overhead. So there are some settings related to these which we'll cover soon. We have the save button, which will save the format. So if you wanted to save that as always expanded, you click save, reopen the task manager, and you're not going to have to expand or collapse every time. This button here allows you to select a different date to review tasks on. So for example, if a user was going on some leave, they might want to see what their task looks like over the next month or so, so they can plan in and around how to cover the work while they're gone, or again for administrators to check what some of their users have coming up. And this button here, which allows you to view another user's tasks. So the administrator, if they click on this button, should be able to see a list of everybody. Over and above that, there are some settings that allow users to share their task managers. So you may have a colleague who you cover when they're away. You can just jump in there to view their tasks. So if we double click on Jenny, for example, and then just refresh this, we will see Jenny's list of tasks. So in here, I wanted to point out that there are a few that Jenny's name isn't on. One is not delegated to anyone, but owned by admin. And this one here is owned and delegated to admin, yet Jenny can still see it. Typically, she wouldn't, but because she's in the role of collector and this has been delegated to a collector role, she can still see it. So this is a great way of also being able to cater for users being able to see their colleagues' tasks if necessary. If you don't want to share the entire task manager, make sure it's delegated to that role, and that can be a really handy way to also cross-manage workflows. Well, not workflows specifically, but workloads is what I meant to say. There are two other options or tabs down the bottom here for Task Manager. One is the logs page. Actually, I'm just going to reload admin for this. So I've got some more information. And any outstanding user logs will also appear here. So there was also that filtered folder under tasks, but here is a cleaner way perhaps of looking at them. You might have a user log because it's been created by a script. It's often used to report errors. For example, where you've got some automated processes running on a Windows scheduled task, you may have it coded to load an user log with error reporting, so that user can see that something has failed and that they need to follow up on some actions there. There is also the user files page where a user can drag and drop files into here. Coming in the next released version is the ability to control these categories in FinPower Connect itself, but the way I've categorized these is using the Windows Explorer root folder in this particular version. So clicking this button here will open your Windows Explorer folder, and so you can also add files in that way. But again, coming out in version 4.0.02, you'll be able to change the subfolders via FinPower Connect, which is very cool. So that's largely Task Manager itself. So now we'll cover off some of the configuration and customization points. So prior to version 4, task groups only existed as part of FinPower Connect Cloud Tasks view. With Task Manager 2, they become a way for administrators to configure Task Manager folders for users on a per role or permission basis. A new Tools Tasks Group menu option is now available for administrators to manage that. So that's just in the Tools Task Groups configuration area here. From here, wizard like the old Task Manager folder form appears, and you can add folders that will, as mentioned, be added for all users, depending on the role or permissions set. So for this one here, I've restricted it to only the collector role being able to view them, which is a useful way to tailor specific folders over and above the system folders to specific roles. I've prepared an example here of SMS replies. So if we drill down and have a look in this wizard here, you can either choose to base them on the system-based folders or create your own. In my case, I've created my own and I've added 2 item folders in here. So if we open these items up, this particular example, I've just selected a simple filter tasks option. You can choose your own icon. Depending on what you choose here, different options become available up here. But just looking at the filter tasks one to keep it simple for today. On the task filters page, I have simply selected account log and client log and put a subject in of outgoing SMS for this option because I want to see any replies to that particular type of text message. The second one here, I've done the same thing just as a very simple example. And I have set a couple of subjects in here to also view those replies. So if we had a quick look back at Task Manager, you can see it's in a different color. That was also based in the configuration. I've got my folder here and I've got my 2 separate items. So this one here shows a couple of SMS replies that have come in and are filtered by that subject that I selected. And again, a different one, a marketing one for an example, a reply to an interest-free promo. So you could isolate set replies if you wanted to. So again, that's just a very simple example of creating something with more filters more targeted than the system folders we've already seen. But as you can see by those settings, there's many options available to really drill down even further and make it even more personalized. Example, you can also pop in an HTML widget. Not all out of the box HTML widgets will work from here, but a good example of one that does is the promise management summary that we've got over there. So this one here. The same goes for adding a folder based on user. So a user themselves can right click in this area here and add their own filtered folder, which will only appear in their task manager, not everybody's. They can also rearrange the folders, obviously, depending on where they want things ordered. Another important thing to note with these changes and bringing in the tasks group is that the FinPower Connect Cloud configuration task options have also changed and has now separated out options that apply only to the tasks view in FinPower Connect Cloud rather than Task Manager 2. As a result, it's also important to note that exporting and importing from the FinPower Connect Cloud configuration form no longer includes task groups. So you'll now need to use the export and import buttons below the grid on that task groups form itself, just here. It has also been added to the file import export options. So if you were exporting as a package, you can now select task groups as well. Other Task Manager related settings for FinPower Connect are available in Global Settings and User Preferences. So in Global Settings, under Tasks and Workflows, for example, you can turn Task Manager 2 on and choose whether or not you're still going to allow access to Task Manager 1. You have folder count options, so you can either leave it set to automatic or choose none or on demand, depending on your requirements. You can define a page set here for the home page. And you have options for the monitored accounts as to how long you want to display closed or unwanted accounts for. So again, for performance reasons, you probably wouldn't want to be displaying closed accounts until the end of time. 90 days is probably plenty, but it's just an example. And in the user preferences, the user can choose whether or not to display Task Manager when the database is opened and whether or not to show these Task Manager alerts on opening the database as well, which is accessible from down there. You can also choose whether to periodically check and show alerts for new tasks or new workflows and how often that checking should occur. Again, performance-wise, you can choose what is appropriate for your client in their database. You can specify the number of days before an outstanding quote appears as a task. So for example, how long an outstanding quote has been open but hasn't been converted into an open loan. So currently, quotes older than 14 days will appear for a review to prompt the user to chase up on that quote, see what's happening with it, etc. Here is also the display options for the Task Manager to choose which system folders you are going to display. So if workflows weren't relevant for certain users, you could turn them off and so on and so forth. Obviously, if you're not licensed for account applications, that option will not be displaying here. You can set a homepage at a user level if required and choose whether or not to display the user logs in user file page. And if relevant, and depending on your database country, you can choose whether to have tasks based on pending PPSR transactions as well. Sharing here is where a user can set who they share their task manager with. Obviously, admin doesn't apply, so they can choose to share with users and share with everybody, or just selected users, perhaps, who they work closely with. And another handy hint here is if you're setting up a database for the first time and you have set preferences that you'd like to display for everybody or perhaps some users, you can launch this little wizard here to copy the user preferences from one user to another. So you can isolate that and just make it your task manager folders. And if you put an asterisk in here, it will automatically select everybody. Handy hint for anybody that doesn't know that. If you click next, it'll just double check that you want to copy the preferences to all of those users. And here we have our further examples. So I can just tick the task manager folders and untick all settings if I don't want to copy absolutely everything across. And click finish, and that will do that for you. So we've come to the end of what I had prepared for our session today, but as always, if there's any additional information you seek, don't hesitate to contact application support for user interface queries or code support in relation to code-specific questions.